Hello, everyone. I'm Davy Jags, and this is Sparkle On. Sparkle is your happiness, passion, and self worth, and is found through the power of creativity. Today, I'm so excited to have American actress Mattea Conforti, who's transitioning from a child star on Broadway to a rising TV lead for Hulu's The Testaments, which is the sequel to Handmaid's Tale. She plays Becka, and she's also known for her roles as young Elsa in Frozen 2 and Matilda Woodworm for Matilda the Musical. And if you don't think that's impressive enough, she's also a student at Harvard.
Someone I'm standing and I'm shouting out. And sparkle on. It started as a spark, but felt
So you've had a very impressive acting career already growing up, and now you're attending Harvard. So your schedule is probably insane, but I would love to know what it was like to discover that you landed the role of Becca while you were a student.
Yeah, attending Harvard has been amazing in so many different ways. I've met incredible people. I've had the opportunity to take such amazing classes that have benefited me not only as an actor, but also as a person. And when I found out that I had booked the role of Becca while I was at school, it was such a surreal moment because I once one never had, the thought or never, thought or realized I could ever go to school to Harvard at Harvard. So I was very fortunate to be in that space. But on top of that, I never thought I was going to have to leave Harvard too.
Right.
And also, fulfill my dream of being a part of this show. So it was such a surreal moment. And I was really fortunate to, get the opportunity to not only go from, Harvard, but to then also work as part of the Testaments.
Yeah, and you're also studying theater at Harvard. And I was pretty struck because, when I think of the arts and studying in school, the path is often very nonlinear, but you also have this obligation to fulfill credits and all that stuff that it comes
Yeah.
along with getting a degree. How have you balanced really following the more academic style of learning your craft with also experimenting as you're working during this time?
Yeah. Well, it's so weird because I feel like I've learned more things that have been more applicable on set and to any character that I'm trying to study and nail the personality of, or even the relationships within each other and other characters too. Just by learning other things throughout my other more general academic curriculum, whether that's through math or through science. When you gain that real knowledge, real world knowledge, and world experience, I think for me, it's easier to attribute that to any character that I'm playing. While I was in my first year at Harvard, as well as any other first year student at any other college, you have to take your general courses, your general curriculum, your gen eds, if you will. So, you have to immerse yourself into spaces that you not necessarily would have, immersed yourself into in high school or in other places, and especially not on set too. So it's really fun to find a balance between this kind of two different people that I am kind of. So yeah, it's cool to really apply myself in the classroom and to really explore other things that I wouldn't necessarily explore through acting, but I really think it helps better me as an actor, really applying myself in a different space than I would on set.
What's been like a really surprising class or experience that you weren't expecting that would feed into the craft as you pursue acting?
Well, specifically for this show, my freshman year at Harvard, I took a justice, reasoning, and critical ethical times class course at Harvard. It was a really famous course that was brought back only for 1 year, and I was really fortunate that it was my freshman year,
Yeah.
so I had the opportunity to take it. And it has just been proven so applicable, especially through the Testaments and through Becca, because the whole course was about evaluating what we might deem as ethical and what we might deem as unethical, or how we should reason through certain controversial things, and why, we believe certain things and why other people might not believe the same things as us. And we would have full course debates and, an open class discussion about certain topics. It was really cool. That's been like one of my favorite courses that I've taken there. and a lot of people took. It was in this huge lecture hall. It was so beautiful. But yeah, I think that's been the most helpful. Just developing those critical analysis skills and critical thinking through problems and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes like there's so much depth that goes into acting and the
Yeah.
research and the information that you do. But you started doing this, career as a child, and what I thought was so special was how you used to work with Shana Stein, one of the directors on The
Yeah.
Testaments,
Uh-huh.
before in your show as a role in Power.
Yeah.
But then going into Testaments, she's directed some of your most pivotal like characters arcs for
Yeah.
Becca. And so how did that relationship empower you to dive into that psyche and what Becca had to do for the narrative?
Working with Shanna on those big episodes, we would always say, wow, this just feels like this is so meant to be, because we had previously, as you mentioned, worked together on Power. And it was kind of like navigating an entirely new relationship between us. We were really close on Power too, and she was such an incredible and inspirational woman to work with. But I was such a young child, so I feel like I wasn't really able to kind of collaborate in the same sense or the same fashion that I was able to on those later episodes in the Testaments. So we got to really explore that more creative side and more collaborative side to our relationship. And it's just so special working with someone that you previously have worked with and have that relationship with on those bigger moments. I think it really helps those episodes, and it helps you have those conversations that you are a little bit more comfortable having with someone that and are more accustomed to having those conversations with. But it was really special, and I was really lucky to get to work with her. And those episodes have been my favorite to film.
Oh, I mean, they were absolutely incredible. I definitely like could not sleep after I watched those episodes because they were so intense. And I'm
Yeah, they're a bit intense.
Yeah. I mean, what was that like? Like filming those, like what were the kind of the self-care that you had to do? Because the topics of the Testaments is not light, and we know that from The
No.
Handmaid's Tale. But how
Mhm.
did you kind of separate those worlds?
Yeah. You have to honestly remember, like, you get so into it, and that's just because everyone around you, from the crew to our creative team, to the other actors surrounded by you, everybody is showing up and giving their 110. So you kind of really have to get into it, because everyone else is giving their best foot forward and putting their best effort forward. So when you're not on set and you're not involved in that specific scene, I would just kind of remember, I'm an actor. This is my job. I'm showing up, I'm filming, and then, talk to my family, talk to my friends. I was very fortunate that they would come up and visit me a lot and spend a lot of time with me. But I honestly, like, I wanted to be leaving set on those crazier days exhausted, knowing that I had given it my all and I wasn't going to be questioning if I should have given it more, if I should have done something differently, because knowing me, that's something I would have done
Right.
because they were such big moments, especially for my character. And I wanted to do them, the right way, and the way that, the writers and Margaret Atwood even, would envision for Becca. So I really wanted to, be mentally and physically exhausted. And, you kind of had to be.
And what was like the biggest learning curve? Because I imagine when you're a child working on some of these sets, it's probably a little bit more being told what to do rather than honing in that craft. What was the
Mhm.
biggest transition that where you might have felt like you had to grow up a little bit to do this
Yeah.
role?
I think it's that level of independence that I
Mhm.
didn't really have when I was a child, working on set, meaning just that I didn't have my mom or my dad always there with me on set, and I didn't have a tutor to do school. So I had a lot of, outside things that I had to kind of stay on myself for, and keep myself aligned on a schedule. But it was also just navigating how to really explore a character without anyone else kind of telling me, what this character might be dealing with another one, or explaining the story, because I was too young to watch the whole thing. Like in Power, I couldn't really watch the whole series to
Right.
understand Elisa Marie. Um, so I kind of had to, lean on some outside insight for that. But it was so, so cool, really leaning into a more creative and collaborative space within myself. And it made the experience so much more special for me, because it was my first time, sitting down with the writers and talking about, and with Bruce Miller, our showrunner, and talking about what I had envisioned for Becca and where I see Becca's character going. And I'd never been asked that before. So
Hmm.
it was really cool. And I really liked, offering my insight, but I was like, I'm going to take the reins. I trust you guys. You guys are the experts here. I'll just follow wherever you guys think this should go. But it was really special.
And I really I'm a writer myself, so I
Mhm.
feel like when I read other people's work, I do a similar process of like where I see their character going and envisioning that space before there's actual like sets and like storyboards and stuff like that that really bring the thing to life
Yeah.
before it's adapted. What was that experience like for you where you're reading the book, you're reading the script, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm playing this character. What were those conversations like? Um,
So, yeah, we had all of the entire cast arrived a few weeks earlier than we were scheduled to start filming. Just to, have those early conversations with Mike Barker, one of our directors, and Bruce Miller and Maya and Gianna, some of our writers, and even just to start working with our costume department and our hair people and everybody so that we can really start to see the vision settle in. And I remember those early conversations were, okay, who is Becca to you?
mm,
Who is this character that you're trying to get to know? Because, just as much as they have a vision, they want to hear your insight. And it's really, it takes a village, it's everybody's collaboration and insight in one, which was so cool to get to be a part of that beginning process and to see that all unfold. And I remember meeting the girls for the first time too, before we started filming, because they wanted to establish those close relationships, because in this world, we pretty much only have each other.
right.
And that was just so special because it was like an instantaneous sisterhood where we all just immediately clicked. And we were just reading off of each other. We would sit down at this table and just read a few scenes and just get to know each other, get the groove of, the rhythm of the characters going off of one another and how our personalities were supposed to intertwine. And it was so special. It was just like seeing the whole project come to life. It was really special.
And I love that too because I feel like we see that in the show where, like you said, there's a sisterhood, but there's also a survival aspect about the narrative
Yeah,
with this sisterhood. Um,
yeah.
because it's an ensemble cast and there's many different threads of individual people's story, where were you working towards that collaboration where Becca's actions really drove the end of the show, but then also retreating to focus on it yourself? What was that push and pull like with your
Yeah.
coworkers?
It was strange because Becca's actions are kind of like this huge snowball of
Hmm.
events that are just occurring and building on one another as the season progresses. So it's not really anything that you can pinpoint specifically that honestly causes her huge crash out at the end of the season. So it's kind of like this emotional transgression and progression as the season goes that you kind of have to just keep that in the back of your mind. Well, in this scene, Becca could be struggling with her identity, her sexuality, her not conforming to these girls, her, status, her family status. There's just so many things that Becca is constantly going through. And these girls are all going through too. And what's so special is that each girl has their own narrative to share, but Gilead suppresses it all.
Yeah.
So it's really just about what elongated stare can I give at someone to signal that I'm going through something right now? Or who can I look at differently to kind of tell a different story than what I was just telling 5 minutes ago? And that's something that I loved the most about this show is that it's such a non-verbal story.
Yeah.
And these girls are telling us who they are through their eyes and through their minds. And it's just so powerful to see how much can be communicated without speech. And you see that, when you have the moments of the assemblies or the sacrifices, and they get that one little pocket and that one little moment where they can finally just let everything go and just scream. Like they could be screaming about a million different things, but it's just directed at this one event. So that's really cool that, there's so many different stories that are just simultaneously being told, and you just have no idea because they just can't speak on it.
Well, I also like I love what you said because so much of the story is told with like the young girl's eyes, and your
Yeah.
character does it so well because she's suppressing so much, whether it's her sexuality, her anger
Yeah.
about the concept of marriage. And what I find interesting is that I feel like that's how like a lot of teenage girls feel, right? Like they're
Mhm.
not expressing themselves, and so much of this show is about learning how to express yourself through the arts, whatever medium that is. What was the biggest challenge with portraying Becca, and then what are you most proud of how you delivered that character?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I I remember sitting down with Bruce Miller at first, and I had no idea about Becca's character transformation from day one. I just had kind of assumed that Becca would kind of, have differing opinions about marriage, whether or not she would want to become a wife one day. I had never thought that it would go this deep, or at least she would have romantic feelings for Agnes. So learning that that was the vision for Becca was really special because it added this element that I felt like was so different than what any Gilead character has offered, honestly, at this point. And I was really excited to dive into that. Um, I just thought it was so interesting to play a character that could honestly be thinking about anything and just constantly be struggling. Like from day one, there's something that's just not right. And it was honestly kind of relieving playing a character that steps into this world with this initial hesitation and doubt, because as an
Mm,
audience member you can recognize the manipulation and the brainwashing that these girls go through. So it's kind of relieving to kind of take a step back and have my Mattea brain say, okay, I can kind of let myself shine here and be like, this is not okay.
yeah, yeah.
um kind of through Becca a little bit. But yeah, if anything, like as an actor, playing that is really fun. And the later episodes, especially, were really fun when I was finally able to kind of just let everything out because Becca had just reached her breaking point and her limit. Um, yeah, it was a challenge for sure, but a very fun challenge.
Do you think for acting that the actor has to feel some sort of tie to a character to portray the character
Mm.
successfully, or can a character be a total stranger to the actor and it still is able to be delivered? I'm curious about that relationship of closeness, or how distance also could inform good acting.
Yeah. That's a really great question. I feel like it's kind of a mix of both,
Mm,
honestly. There's a lot of things that I feel very distant from Becca on, specifically her environment, the way that she's grown up and the way that she has to unfortunately grow up, and her, entire atmosphere, her school, her relationships with her friends, everything like that feels a little bit foreign to me. But I think there's a lot of, and as an actor, I think with any character, there's a lot of similarities that you can kind of draw within yourself. And for me, that was kind of going through my own adolescence and changing in so many different ways. And even just having, friendships change, and questioning myself and growing into the, a woman that I hope to become one day. And struggling with, oh, these are my norms, but maybe I want these to be my new norms. I think I don't think it necessarily determines whether or not you can successfully play um, a character. I think it's more just about understanding you have to kind of look at the character as their own agent and as their own person, and
mhm.
understand their, prior relationships, their future relationships, how they got to that way. It's like, realizing these are people in the most realistic way, and kind of trying to find little pockets of yourself to apply to them. So it feels a little bit more natural stepping into. But I think it's really fun. I really like playing all new kinds of people. I can kind of tie that back into just love playing house when I was little
Oh my
and
gosh,
playing little
yes.
little games. Yeah, I just think I love, before I started studying theater at school, I was taking a lot of psychology classes,
Mm.
and I just think it's so interesting to analyze, developmental psychology, and anything, how the brain becomes the way we are, and how, we become individualistic compared to other people. Um, so yeah, I think it's just about who the characters are and how you can find yourself within each one.
I feel like psychology classes and studying psychology is so important to any creative medium. I'm taking a course right now
Yeah.
on the heroine's journey. So much we see
Mm,
representation around the hero's journey, but the
mm,
heroine's journey, especially from a psychology lens, aside from what we see in TV, is like we go through that as women, right? We go into this
yeah.
underworld where all hope is lost kind of thing. And then understanding how that applies in our life, even from like age. Like people talk about Saturn return, that's astrology, but you know what I mean? Like it mirrors so much across cultures, across
Mhm.
belief systems. And I could see like how that applies to TV and writing and things like that. So it's cool that you said that. I'm curious to know what are now we're seeing Becca. We leave off at her most vulnerable moments yet. What are you
Mm.
excited for in the next season of the Testaments for her?
Yeah, honestly, I'm really excited to figure out what she's going to do about her relationship with Garth and
Hmm.
if she's going to find out that he's a part of Mayday, because I think that could be really crucial for, Becca feeling comfortable within her relationship and kind of feeling stable in the fact that there's someone that kind of shares her hesitation and doubt within this world. I think that could be really interesting, and maybe she would join Mayday. I don't know. That could be really cool too. Um, I'm just really hoping that she remains close with Agnes and that she can have more open and honest conversations with the people who love her and will support her about who she is and what makes her individual and, what she's been struggling with throughout season one, just like how she did with Daisy in episode 5 in that moment at the ball when she finally opened up. I think that was really special, and I want her to have more moments like that. I think that's, really, crucial for her well-being, honestly. Yeah.
I definitely hope that she joins Mayday. Like that's how I felt like when I
So
finished watching it. I was like, this will be so badass.
that would be so cool. Like Becca just brings it all down.
Yeah.
I don't know though. I think she might need a nap before.
That's also fair. She's done a lot. um,
Wait a little time.
yeah. And so what does acting give you that nothing else does?
Joy and happiness, really. I've talked about this so much, and throughout the years I've kind of gone through my ups and downs of, is this, what I want to be doing my whole life? Do I explore something else? Went through COVID and everything was on pause for a very long time, and then I started really focusing at school, and I just kept coming back to the same conclusion that acting is really the only thing that makes me feel like I can escape into something and really express myself. And it's kind of like my number one happiness. When ever since I was like such an early age, I used to do competitive dance, and I've just always been in love with the whole aspect of performance and putting on a show and being on stage and kind of just losing myself in the lights and in those moments. Um, so yeah, I it sounds so cliche, but I'm like, acting makes me happy, but like it does.
There's so many people that I feel like I've talked to that come from dance backgrounds that just
Mm,
really tell really amazing women forward stories. Like the Testament of Anne Lee, like the director and writer
yeah.
was all like dancing background. So I find that so fascinating
God.
because like I love dancing at like parties and stuff like that. But like when you tell me to like choreograph something, like even if it's a TikTok video, I get so nervous. Like I
Oh my
can't do
gosh.
it.
That's
But
like my favorite thing to do.
really? No, like I believe it. It's like I think
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I probably
Mhm.
have some like old like inner child wounds that like I maybe didn't get over that my memory suppressed. But like my boyfriend and I often talk about like our first dance at our wedding, and like it gives me so much anxiety because obviously I want to choreograph it a little bit, but I
You
know
do
like
like a fun, like crazy one, or
yes,
just like,
yes.
oh, okay, okay.
I want to do a crazy one, but I think what I've realized is sometimes the thing that we resist the most is probably this like gateway into the thing that we're supposed to like a story that we're supposed to tell, a medium that we haven't
Yeah.
explored. And so I'm curious to know if you've had that experience where something completely left field opened up something for you in acting, or have you discovered what kind of stories that you want to tell beyond obviously the testaments?
Yeah. I think I mean, what opened something that just opened completely in something in left field was literally acting through dance. I
Mm.
was a competitive dancer for so long, and my family and I went down the shore, the beach. That's just,
Oh, I'm from the East Coast. I go to Cape May.
okay,
Yeah.
good, good. We went to the Jersey Shore one day, um, and we met up with our family friends on the beach, and they kind of were telling us to contact an agency in the city about dancing. If you ever wanted to explore this more professionally outside of the dance studio. And me, that's all I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was just dance and dance and move my body and tell my story through movement. I think that was, the most special thing in my life. And I wanted to just continue doing that. So I met up with an agency, and we went to an open call for Matilda, and I was originally just auditioning to be a part of the ensemble, just to dance on stage. I had no singing experience or training at all, no acting. I had no idea what I was doing. Every kid had like a binder with their headshots on it, and I had like a stapled piece of paper that I took. It's like a picture of me like in front of my aunt's fireplace with like a brick back. We thought that was like the coolest thing because we thought it looked so professional. It didn't. But I went in and I ended up getting Matilda from that. So that was just kind of when I realized, wow, maybe this is something that I could really do in my life and something that could bring me a lot of happiness. And I think ever since that moment, and especially through Matilda, I've found the most joy in projects where I feel like I'm telling a message, and I feel like I'm telling a story that is just so important. When I started in Matilda, it was, big things come in small packages. And for me, like I was quite short. I'm still short, but I was, very, very short when I was doing Matilda, and I never thought I would ever be capable of doing that. And I was finding the courage from the show within myself. So I think any show that has such a strong message that I can use to inspire me and to motivate me, and that I can see help motivate and inspire other people, I find the most joy out of. And I want to keep doing shows and film and theater and everything like that.
No, I got so excited when I was reading about, like, you brought back so many memories when I was reading about your time on Matilda, because I love that movie. I will still watch that movie. But I was like, if we're gonna go in an era of reboots, like, we need a TV version of Matilda, but Matilda grown up, like being a teacher or something. And I
Oh
was
my God.
yeah, you should go pitch that actually. But it would be so special because I think, she's a character that allowed so many young girls to, I feel like, be smart, be magical, and those stories are so so important, and usually what inspires me as well. But thank you so much for sharing so much about your process. You have such a interesting background, and I'm so excited to see season 2 and where your character goes and all the other characters you're going to play moving forward.
Oh, thank you so much. This was so much fun, and I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, well, it'll be out soon, and thank you everyone. Tune into the Testaments and watch for Mattea's journey moving forward. Sparkle on.
And sparkle on. It started as a spark.